Hey guys, welcome to the fourth installment of our tutorial series, making our very first game. Today we're going to cover collecting a key and displaying the fact that we've picked up a key. So let's click into our recent project, the game we've been working on here. And there's a whole lot going on today. So first we're just going to start with something easy. We're going to draw a sprite. So go to your sprite folder in your asset browser, right click, create, sprite. We're going to create a key. Mine here is 16 by 16. Let's rename it to S key and edit image. And let's go with the classic gold key here. Let's see, here we go. And it's got one small tooth, one big tooth. Here, here, and here. Does that look okay? It's kind of like a key. Does that look like a key? There we go. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. That's kind of key-like. So we'll use that. Let's go to our workspace here. And actually on the asset browser, we're just going to create the object now. And it's as simple as that. Right click, create object. And we're going to rename it here, right up here, OKey. And grab from your asset browser the sprite, drag it over, and there's our key object. Now let's open up our room game. Let's just throw our key in there. So we've got a key now. So what I did was I just dragged the key from here into our game. It's right here. Now that key, we want to collect it, and we want to make sure the player knows he's collected it. So we'll go to our OPlayer object, and we're going to right click in the events here. Right click, add event, collision, which is down near the bottom, objects, key. So what this is going to do is when we collide with the key, it's going to run the code that we put over here. So create a description, just say get key. And right off the hop, the key has to get destroyed. The object of the key has to be removed from the game because we've collected it. So what we'll do is say, let's comment destroy key. And what we're going to use is a with statement. A with statement is basically just going to run all of the code in the brackets within the object we tell it to use. With other being the other object in the collision. So the initial object is us, the player. And the other object is the object that we're colliding with. So with other instance destroy bracket. So what that's saying is with the other object, running the code within the other object, destroy, which is going to destroy itself, the key. So now if we go and run the game, it should show a key in our game room and then destroy it when we run it. So there's our key. Let's run over to it, run down to it, and once we touch it, it destroys itself. So it's working properly so far. Next step, we're going to go to our room init and create something called a global variable. So go down to your creation code on the bottom left here under room properties. If you can see me clicking that in the bottom left here, creation code, enter. So we're going to make sure it's above the room go-to room game. It's got to be above that. Global dot key equals 0. And then we'll just comment it keys collected. So what this is doing is creating a variable which will hold the number of keys we've collected, but this variable is within the game. It's not within the room, it's not within the instance or the object that we're using. This is going to be remembered throughout the entire time that the game is running. So if our player dies, our keys are still remembered within the game. So global keys equals 0. We haven't collected any yet, so the game's going to start with us having 0. Go to O player again, open it back up, and within that O key collision, we're going to, before we destroy it, global key plus plus. So what plus plus means is it's going to add 1 to the number of keys that we've got in this variable here. So global key, it was 0. Once we've collected it, it's going to add 1, plus plus, and then it's going to destroy the key, which is all fine, and it's going to work perfectly, but we have no way of knowing how many keys we've got. So let's add another event within the player. Add event. We're going to do a draw event. Draw GUI. Now let's change the description again to draw player HUD, heads up display. So we're going to draw all the information about the player that we've got. We could do the health here, if we had stamina, if we were collecting coins. But right now we're just going to keep track of keys. So we're going to write something in here. Global. Nope. We're going to write something in here. Draw sprite extended. And what that will do is draw a sprite on our screen within room games. So we want to draw the number of keys right up in the top left. And the top left being, you can kind of see on that, on the lines up at the top, 0, 0 is the top left. And the GUI layer will be 1280 wide by 720 high. So even though you can see here on the left side it says 180, it's going to use the GUI layer from the very first room we started off. So 1280 by 720. So where we want to draw the sprite is going to be right around 1010. So if you looked at sprite extended, draw sprite extended, type that in. Down at the bottom here, when you go into the brackets, you can see it says exactly what we need. Let's go back up there and back down here. So it says draw sprite extended, sprite, subimage, X, Y, the X scale and Y scale that we want, which is the size, rotation. So if we're going to spin the object, we can do that. The color, blend, which we're not going to do, and the alpha, which would be the opacity, which we're not going to do either. So the sprite we're drawing is S key. The subimage, which is basically the frame of that sprite we're doing, is 0. X and Y is going to be 10 and 10. Image scale is going to be, let's do 3 and 3. So if we drew a 16 by 16 sprite, it's going to blow it up times 3. Image blend is going to be image blend. Image alpha is going to be image alpha. And those are just built-in variables. We're drawing them from the player. So by default, image blend is white, and image alpha is 1, which would be not opaque at all, which, you know, solid object. So now we've drawn our sprite extended, S key, 1010. It's giving us a little error here. Number of arguments is 9. So we've got our S key image index. Oops, what are we doing here? Image index, X, Y, X scale, Y scale, rotation. I forgot to do that. So image angle would be our rotation. Image angle by default is 0. So we've written image angle, image blend, and image alpha. So now when we run the game, it should draw a nice key up at the top, and really that's all we need at this second. So now we've got a key at the top left of the screen. But what we want to do is tell us if we've got any. So let's go down here, draw text transformed, because we want to change the size of the text. Again, it tells us what we need down here. Draw text transform x, y, the string, which is the word we want, x scale, y scale, the size of the words, and angle, which is the rotation. So the x and y will be, x is going to be, we're going to do 40, y is going to be 10. The string we want is going to be global. Well, let's do this because it's not a string, it's a number. We're going to say string global dot key. So what that does is the string command tells us to draw a word of whatever variable we're putting in. So global key is a number, and it was asking for a string, so we've got to turn it into a string. String global key. So it's going to draw the word equal to the number that we have. So if it was a 0, it would draw the word 0. Well, not the word, but the number, the character 0. That sounds so confusing. It's going to draw a 0 if we got no key. It's going to draw 1 if we've got a key. So now we're drawing that there, and we're going to change the scale to 2 and 2, and image angle is image angle. So I think that's all we need. There we go. So global key is going to be drawn to the right, x being 40, which means in room game, if we're drawing our key here at 10, we're drawing the number, the string to the right, which is 40 over to the right. And it's not going to look pretty, so we're going to do one other thing before we do that. We're going to make a font, which sounds confusing, but it's not. So just go over to your asset browser, find the font folder, right click, create font, and we're going to create a font. We're just going to call it FNT font, and that's our font here. Now the only real thing we've got to change, because it's a closer up pixelated game, we got to change the anti-aliasing. We're going to change it to off right here, anti-aliasing off. And what that does is it just tries to make the letters look pretty from a more HD scale. It draws grayish pixels in between as they curve. We don't want that because it's really up close. We're going to change our size to 10. That should look okay. And that should just about do it, I think. So now go back to your object player, and where we said draw text transform, we want to set the font first. So draw set font, FNT font, and that's going to set our font beforehand so that when we draw our text it looks okay. So go ahead and hit the play button and we'll see what we're looking at. So you can see in the top left, we've just got to change the coordinates a little bit, but there's a key that says 0, and if we grab it, it says 1. So exit out of there. It looked like we weren't far enough left, so instead of 40, let's go 55, and we want to move it down a little bit too, so instead of 10, let's just say 15. Again, hit the play button. Some of these things, especially with the GUI layer, when you're drawing your own heads-up display, you want to draw your health perfectly. You've got to feel those things out. So this one here, that looks a little bit better. We grab our key, it says 1, but I still want it a little bit more to the left. So we're going to say 70, and we're still going to move, our this over a little bit more, move it downward to 20. So this, I think, should look perfect. Once it loads up. There we go. So we've got our key there. We grab a key. It says 1. Now we've got 1 key. So I could have a room with 7 doors, and I could go ahead and collect 7 different keys. There you go. That is our player collecting keys. And now what we can do is create a door that we've got to go into. But I'm going to save that for another episode. Next episode, we will be looking into making a points object. So something that the player can collect points. I think it's just going to be coins. Instead of having just a key that we collect at a door we go into, we're going to find some coins along the way. And we'll probably connect that to another global variable, but other than that, if you have any questions, leave in the comments. If you watch the whole video, I'd love to see how many people do that. Leave a like, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.